Ladies and gentlemen, lean in for a moment, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just another motivational line. It's a declaration over your life. You may have walked into this season feeling overlooked, underestimated, written off, and counted out. You may have heard whispers, felt the pressure, seen doors close, and watched people distance themselves as if your story were over. But hear this loud and clear: God is not finished with you. You are standing in the middle of a setup that looks like a setback. You're walking through a chapter that feels like defeat, but heaven calls it development. You're carrying scars that others use to judge you, but God calls them evidence of what He's preparing you for. They thought you were done, but they didn't know who's holding your pen. They didn't know who writes your story. They didn't know who turns graves into gardens, battles into breakthroughs, and delays into divine appointments. Let me remind you of something. Every time life tried to bury you, God was planting you. Every time someone walked away, God was making room. Every time you were pushed down, God was positioning you. See, people look at your situation and they make conclusions. But God looks at your situation and He makes promises. People see your past. God sees your purpose. People see limits. God sees launch pads. And right now, God is setting the stage to flip what tried to break you. He's getting ready to turn the very thing that hurt you into the very thing that elevates you. The enemy hit you with his best shot, but he forgot something crucial. You don't stand in your own strength. You stand in God's strength. You stand in God's authority. You stand in God's promise. And when God is the one backing you, there is not a chain strong enough, not a wall tall enough, not a giant big enough to stop what He has planned for you. Yes, you've cried. Yes, you've struggled. Yes, you've wondered, when is it my turn? But hear this: your struggle is not a sign of God's absence. It's proof of your assignment. Your opposition isn't punishment, it's confirmation. The reason the pressure has been so heavy is because the purpose on your life is even heavier. The reason the attack has been so strong is because the anointing on you is even stronger. They thought you were finished. They thought the storm would drown you. They thought the loss would stop you. They thought the betrayal would break you. They thought the delay would discourage you. But what they didn't think, what they couldn't see, was that God was preparing a flip. God was setting up a reversal. God was arranging a comeback that only He could orchestrate. So hear me today, your story is about to shift. The same people who doubted you will be the ones who witness what God is about to do through you. The same enemies who mocked you will have to watch you rise. The same circumstances that threaten to crush you will become the platform God uses to elevate you. You're not stepping into a season of survival. You're stepping into a season of surprise. A season where God says, I'm about to show them that what looked like the end was actually the beginning. So here's your moment. Here's your reminder. Here's your wake-up call. Stand up. Lift your head. Strengthen your faith. Stir your courage. Get ready, because God's about to flip it. Now, you're called to action. Walk out of here today refusing to shrink back, refusing to doubt what God spoke over you, refusing to let fear be your language or failure be your identity. Start speaking life again. Start dreaming again. Start moving again. Start believing again. Because the next chapter of your life isn't called defeat. It's not called broken. It's not called forgotten. The next chapter is called divine reversal. They thought you were done, but God is about to flip it. There are moments in life when everything around you starts collapsing at the same time. Your plans fail. Your support disappears. Your strength weakens, and you start to wonder if you misunderstood every sign God ever gave you. You look at the closed doors, the disappointments, the unexpected detours, and it feels like life is pushing you into a corner you never asked for. But here's the hook. What you called a setback was actually God setting you up for something bigger, higher, and far beyond what you imagined. It didn't look like preparation. It didn't feel like progress, but heaven was working behind the scenes while you were crying in the dark, thinking your story had stalled. The truth is, nothing in your life is wasted. Not the heartbreak, not the confusion, not the delay. Every ounce of pain was tied to a purpose you couldn't see yet. Sometimes God has to let things fall apart so he can rebuild you with a foundation that cannot be shaken. Sometimes he has to let you lose what you thought you needed so he can give you what he already planned. And sometimes he has to let you be underestimated so he can reveal you in a way that makes every doubter silent. Think about it. Seeds don't grow in the light. They grow in the dark. They grow under pressure. They grow when they're buried. And that's exactly how God moves in your life. When you thought you were buried, heaven called it planting. When you thought everything was over, heaven called it the beginning. When you thought you had been pushed down to stay down, heaven said, this is the perfect position for a rise no one will see coming. Here's another hook. You're not in a dead end, you're in a divine setup. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. You're not being ignored, you're being prepared. That's why the season you're in felt unfair, heavy, confusing, and overwhelming. Because destiny often hides inside discomfort. God didn't let the setback happen to stop you. He let it happen to shift you, to reroute you, to realign you with what he always intended for your life. The situation that knocked you down was actually the situation that forced you into growth you never would have embraced on your own. The storm that scared you was actually the wind pushing you into the next chapter of your calling. Every time you were delayed, God was arranging details. Every time you felt forgotten, God was writing the next scene. Every time you felt like giving up, God was whispering to your spirit, hold on, I'm not done yet. And just when people around you thought they had figured out your ending, God was designing your comeback. What they thought would break you became the very thing that built you. What they thought would silence you became the fuel that strengthened your voice. What they thought would stop you became the bridge that carried you into your purpose. Don't forget this hook. Your setback was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you. Reveal your resilience. Reveal your courage. Reveal your faith. Reveal the fire inside you that trials could not extinguish. God needed you to walk through what you didn't want so he could take you to what you've been praying for. And sometimes the only way to elevate you is to first allow the ground under you to shake, shift, and stretch you beyond your limits. Because destiny doesn't show up in comfort. Breakthrough doesn't happen in ease. Transformation doesn't come in calm seasons. It comes in the moments when you thought the story was over, but God was quietly turning the page to write something greater. There comes a moment when you must realize that the loudest voices in your life are not always the truest voices. People love to speak on chapters they've never lived, battles they've never fought, storms they've never survived. They look at where you are and decide that's all you'll ever be. They watch your struggle and assume it's your ending. They judge your delay and call it your defeat. But here's the hook. People's opinions are not God's blueprint. They can guess, assume, whisper, and even predict, but they cannot rewrite what heaven has already written about you. What others say about you has absolutely no power compared to what God has spoken over you. Their opinions are temporary. His purpose is eternal. Their judgment is human. His plan is sovereign. Their doubt is noise. His promise is truth. People look at your present condition and think they have the authority to label your destiny. They see your storm and think you'll drown. They see your struggle and think you're stuck. They see your mistakes and think you're finished. But God sees your heart, your potential, your resilience, your future. Here's another hook. They see the surface, but God sees the story. They see weakness, God sees growth. They see failure, God sees formation. They see the chapter you're in, God sees the book he's writing. And what God writes, no person can edit. What God ordains, no critic can cancel. What God opens, no hater can close. You must understand something powerful. People speak from limited vision. They can only see the moment, not the mission. They can see the difficulty, not the destiny. That's why their words carry weight only if you allow them to. Too many people are walking around crushed by comments from individuals who were never meant to have authority over their future. Too many dreams have been delayed because someone believed a voice that didn't come from God. Too many callings have been dimmed because someone gave power to opinions instead of promises. That's why you need this hook. Your identity cannot be built on the shaky foundation of human approval. If you let people define you, then people will also confine you. If you let people label you, then you'll start living smaller than the purpose inside you. And if you let people discourage you, you'll forget the greatness God placed in you before you were even born. Sometimes God will allow people to misjudge you so he can reveal that their words were wrong when he elevates you. Sometimes he will let people underestimate you so that when he promotes you, they will have no choice but to admit that only God could have done it. Sometimes he lets the crowd doubt you so he can show that their voice was never the one directing your path. God is the one who sets the pace. God is the one who decides the timing. God is the one who determines the outcome. No critic can stop what he's preparing. No rumor can block what he's building. No opinion can erase what he promised. People may see your flaws, but God sees your future. People may highlight your weakness, but God highlights your worth. People may replay your past, but God is rewriting your story with purpose, strength, and victory. And here's a hook that needs to settle deep inside you. God didn't consult anyone when he chose you, so he won't consult anyone when he blesses you. He doesn't check public opinion before promoting you. He doesn't ask for approval before accelerating you. He doesn't wait for human validation before unveiling the greatness he placed within you. You are not defined by what they said. You are not limited by what they believe. You are not boxed in by their expectations. You are free to rise, free to grow, free to become everything God designed you to be. There are seasons in your life where the pressure becomes so intense that you start questioning everything. Your strength, your purpose, your calling, your progress. You wake up with a weight on your chest, go to sleep with battles on your mind, and walk through your day feeling like the enemy is throwing everything he has at you. But here's the hook. Pressure is proof of purpose. Heavy pressure doesn't fall on empty lives. It comes to those carrying destiny, anointing, impact, and divine assignment. You're not being crushed because you're weak. You're being pressed because you're valuable. Diamonds don't form without pressure. Oil doesn't flow without crushing. Gold isn't purified without fire. And you, yes, you are in a season where God is shaping, refining, and strengthening you for something far greater than you can see right now. You've been asking, why is this so hard? Why is the fight so intense? Why does it feel like one battle ends and another begins? Here's another hook. The level of your attack is tied to the level of your assignment. The enemy doesn't waste bullets on someone who isn't a threat. He doesn't target what isn't valuable. He doesn't pressure what isn't powerful. The reason the weight feels heavy is because what you carry is heavenly. The reason the storms feel constant is because your calling is significant. The reason the battle has been fierce is because your breakthrough is close. You are stepping into a season of influence that requires strength, resilience, and spiritual maturity. And God uses pressure to build what comfort could never produce. You may feel like the pressure is breaking you, but in reality, it's building you. It's stretching your faith, sharpening your focus, and forcing you to depend on God in ways you never did before. Pressure pushes you out of complacency. Pressure awakens your prayer life. Pressure reveals what's inside you that comfort would have kept hidden. You didn't know you could endure this much and still stand. You didn't know you could cry this much and still move forward. You didn't know you could lose so much and still keep believing. But the pressure is showing you the strength God placed inside you long before you ever stepped into this season. Some people run from pressure, but here's the truth. Purpose and pressure are twins. They show up together, they grow together, they walk side by side. When God places a calling on your life, he doesn't wrap it in comfort, he wraps it in challenges that prepare you to carry what he's about to release in your future. Every trial is building discipline. Every battle is building courage. Every disappointment is building depth. Every setback is building spiritual muscle. You are being strengthened in the very places you once felt weak. Think about it. Trees grow deeper roots during storm seasons, not sunny seasons. Your roots are going deeper. Your faith is expanding. Your endurance is increasing. What used to break you no longer shakes you. What once overwhelmed you can't stop you now. You're not the same person you were a year ago, 6 months ago, or even 1 week ago. Pressure has shaped you, molded you, and matured you in ways no easy season ever could. And here's a hook that hits different. If the pressure didn't destroy you, it's preparing to elevate you. You're being conditioned for something bigger. You're being fortified for something greater. You're being made ready for doors that require the strength you're gaining right now. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being crushed. You're being crafted. You're not being overwhelmed. You're being overhauled from the inside out so you can carry the future God is about to trust you with. There are moments in life when the people you trusted most suddenly shift, drift, or disappear. People you thought would walk with you forever end up walking away without explanation. Relationships you relied on crumble. Support you depended on dries up. And in those moments, it's easy to believe something went wrong. Easy to assume you weren't enough. Easy to think you did something to deserve the abandonment you felt. But here's the hook. Rejection is not always a wound. Sometimes it's a weapon God uses to protect you from what you cannot see. What you thought was betrayal was actually divine redirection. What you thought was loss was actually God clearing the path for something better. What you thought was the end of a chapter was actually God making space for a new beginning filled with people who see you, value you, and align with your purpose. There are people who were never meant to go where God is taking you. Their presence would have slowed you down. Their mindset would have limited your future. Their intentions would have conflicted with your calling. Sometimes God removes people not to hurt you, but to shield you. Here's another hook. God hears conversations you didn't hear and sees motives you couldn't see. He knows who would have betrayed you later, who would have hindered you, who would have drained your spirit, and who would have quietly sabotaged your growth. And because he loves you, he allows their departure before they can damage your destiny. You may not understand it in the moment. You may feel the sting of their absence. You may replay the moments you shared and wonder what changed. But what changed wasn't you. What changed was the season. The season shifted, and not everyone has the capacity to shift with you. Some people are attached to the old version of you and can't handle the version God is developing now. Some people were assigned to your past, not your future. Some were meant to teach you, not travel with you. And here's the hook. When God elevates you, he separates you. You cannot rise while holding on to people who keep you grounded in who you used to be. You cannot evolve while surrounded by those who prefer the version of you that requires no growth. You cannot step into destiny while clinging to relationships that drain your energy, weaken your faith, and dim your fire. The rejection you felt was actually God's redirection toward your alignment. It had to happen. You had to be released from what was holding you so you could embrace what God was preparing. Think about it. If every person stayed, you would have never discovered your strength. If every relationship lasted, you would have never learned to rely on God. If everyone supported you, you might have settled for average instead of reaching for destiny. Rejection pushes you into a deeper dependence on God, a clearer sense of identity, and a stronger understanding of who deserves access to your life. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone qualifies for the next level you're stepping into. Not everyone has the maturity, loyalty, or spiritual depth to walk where you're headed. And here's a hook that will change your perspective. Who left you was never meant to stay, and who stayed will stand with you in destiny. The ones who walked away made room for the ones God is sending. The ones who couldn't value you made space for those who will celebrate you, support you, and stand beside you through every battle. Their exit wasn't rejection, it was protection. Their departure wasn't a setback, it was a divine setup. Their absence isn't a loss, it's preparation for the relationships that will elevate your future, strengthen your purpose, and align with the destiny God has already spoken over your life. There are seasons where pain becomes so real, so heavy, and so personal that it feels like it has carved its name into your soul. You carry wounds that nobody sees, scars that nobody understands, and battles that nobody knows you fought. And in those moments, it's tempting to ask, why me? Why this? Why now? But here's the hook. God never wastes pain. Not a tear, not a wound, not a disappointment. What hurts you is the very thing God will use to transform you. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the turning point. Pain is the place where breakthrough begins. Pain is the training ground where warriors are forged and destinies are birthed. You didn't walk through that heartache for nothing. You didn't survive that loss by accident. You didn't endure that betrayal without purpose. Every hurt you felt was shaping you, stretching you, and strengthening you into someone you were always meant to become. Here's another hook. Pain reveals purpose the way fire reveals gold. It purifies you. It removes what was never meant to stay. It exposes the strength you didn't know you had. It awakens the courage you forgot was inside you. Think about it. Some of your greatest growth came from your hardest seasons. The times you cried the most became the times you discovered the deepest parts of yourself. The moments you felt most alone became the moments God's presence became undeniable. The days you wanted to quit became the days that developed endurance you didn't know you needed. Pain pushes you to levels you would have never reached in comfort. Pain teaches what ease never could. Pain prepares you for blessings you aren't strong enough to carry yet. You see, pain is a tool in the hands of God. He uses it to shift you, to wake you up, to move you out of what you've outgrown, to protect you from what you can't see. Sometimes the doors that closed weren't rejection. They were rescue. Sometimes the people who hurt you weren't destroying you. They were exposing where your trust never belonged. Sometimes the storms you went through weren't breaking you. They were clearing the path in front of you. And here's the hook. The enemy meant the pain to break you, but God is turning it into the very power that will elevate you. Every time you rise after pain, you rise stronger. Every time you heal wiser. Every time you choose to keep going, you gain spiritual authority that the enemy fears. Pain equips you with empathy to lift others. It gives you wisdom to avoid what once trapped you. It gives you sensitivity to hear God in ways people who never suffered will never understand. There is a depth inside you now that only pain could have produced. And think about this. Your pain didn't stop you. It refined you. It reshaped you. It rebuilt you. The version of you that is emerging from this season carries a resilience that hell couldn't break, a strength that storms couldn't drown, and a power that betrayal couldn't steal. The very thing the enemy used to destroy you is becoming the thing God will use to launch you. That heartbreak is about to become healing for someone else. That disappointment is about to become revelation. That closed door is about to become direction. You are rising with wisdom, insight, and purpose that only comes from surviving what should have crushed you. Here's a hook that needs to echo in your spirit. Your pain did not defeat you. It delivered you to the threshold of your purpose. God is turning your wounds into weapons, your tears into testimony, and your suffering into strength that cannot be shaken. There are seasons when people around you quietly count you out. They watch you struggle, see you hurt, observe your setbacks, and assume that's the end of your story. They look at your circumstances and conclude that you don't have the strength to rise again. They underestimate your resilience, misunderstand your calling, and misjudge your potential. But here's the hook. Your comeback will not be silent, small, or subtle. it will be a divine demonstration that no human opinion can stop what God has ordained. You are not rising to prove them wrong. You are rising because destiny is pulling you forward with a force greater than your pain, greater than your past, and greater than the criticism spoken over your life. You must understand something powerful. People don't always recognize greatness when it's growing. They don't always celebrate purpose when it's hidden. They don't always appreciate strength while it's developing in the dark. They only see the surface, never the struggle, never the prayers, never the battles you fought privately. They saw your tears, but they didn't see your persistence. They saw your mistakes, but they didn't see your growth. They saw your delay, but they didn't see God preparing a comeback that would rewrite the entire narrative. Here's another hook. Those who counted you out didn't count God in. There's a version of you being formed in this season that they never saw coming. A stronger, wiser, more focused version. A version shaped by storms, chiseled by pressure, and deepened by experience. A version that no longer bows to fear, no longer surrenders to doubt, no longer folds under pressure. You are stepping into a chapter where your elevation is going to surprise people, not because you faked, not because you forced it, but because God himself flipped what was meant to limit you into what will launch you. Every struggle you endured has been building momentum. Every setback has been storing energy for a breakthrough. Every closed door has been creating direction. Every moment you didn't quit has been preparing you for a comeback that won't just lift you, it will announce you. Here's a hook. Your comeback will be so undeniable that even your doubters will have to acknowledge that something supernatural happened. They thought the betrayal would break you. They thought the loss would finish you. They thought the delay would stop you. They thought the pressure would silence you. But what they didn't know is that God was using every one of those moments as fuel, refining you, strengthening you, and positioning you for a victory that will echo louder than the pain ever did. The same people who thought you were done will watch you step into opportunities they never expected you to reach. The same people who dismiss you will see doors open for you that no one can take credit for. The same people who underestimated you will witness a rise they can't explain. Your comeback won't be quiet because your struggle wasn't quiet. Your rise will reflect the weight of what you survived. You're emerging from a season that tried to crush you, but instead it carved out a deeper capacity for greatness. You're walking into territory that once felt impossible. You're stepping into influence that once felt out of reach. You're accessing strength you didn't know you had. And here's a hook that should settle deep in your spirit. Your comeback isn't just for you. It's for every person who thought you would never rise again. It's for every voice that declared your story was over. It's for every doubt that tried to suffocate your dreams. It's for every moment you almost gave up but chose to keep believing anyway. You are about to rise in a way that reveals why the fight was so intense, why the pressure was so heavy, and why the enemy tried so hard to stop you.